Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Welcome home.
Thank you.
My name is Jim Gulick, and I'm the Associate Vice President for Advancement here at Widener University. We're so pleased to be able to continue this tradition of recording our oral history, ensuring the preservation of our PMC heritage. I'm happy to say today's Voices from Freedom program is in the very capable hands of Colonel Tom Vossler. Colonel Tom Vossler, U.S. Army retired, is a cadet graduate of the Pennsylvania Military College class of 1968. Commissioned in the Army as a second lieutenant of infantry, he commanded an infantry platoon in combat during the war in Vietnam and Cambodia in 1969-1970. He subsequently served 30 years of Army active duty, retiring in 1998. Since Army retirement, Colonel Vossler has worked as a part-time licensed battlefield guide at Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, specializing in battlefield and leadership studies. Among other battlefield clients, each year he conducts leadership staff rides on the Gettysburg battlefield with 6 to 8 senior Army ROTC detachments from the Northeast United States, including Widener's own Dauntless Battalion. He has co-authored 4 books on American Civil War battles at Gettysburg and Sharpsburg, and also specializes in and is a commentator on the history of the Second World War and the Vietnam War. In the spring of 2023, Colonel Vossler was awarded Widener's John L. Gagan Alumni Citizenship Award, and more recently, he was inducted into the National Army ROTC Hall of Fame and elected a trustee of the Dwight D. Eisenhower Society. Colonel Vossler and his wife Barbara live on their 60-acre Mountain View farm just west of Gettysburg's battlefield in Pennsylvania. Please join me in welcoming Colonel Tom Vossler.
Well, thanks. Whoops, we're not on. There we are. Wow. Thanks for that introduction, and welcome everyone to the auditorium this morning. And we have a fair crowd out here, but also important, guys, as we speak, then we have to keep in mind this is an oral history being recorded. You see the cameras there, and so we're going to record us and you for posterity and kind of the annals of the Pennsylvania Military College. So let's get started by going down the line here, and take a couple minutes, if you would, and please introduce yourself, your class, and what you did with your adult life after graduation, and then we'll come back with some specific questions. So, Dave, you need my mic.
Thank you very much. My name is David McNulty, class of 1963. I was born and raised 5 miles from here in Ridley Township, and decided maybe I'll go to that college that I see on the hill when I take the SEPTA bus into Chester to go shopping. I never visited campus before, but I knew it was a military school, so I enrolled. Never had any doubts about what I wanted to be, a cadet in Pennsylvania Military College. We were told to stay our cadet number, 428. I still remember it. And what did I do with myself? Well, myself and my wife got married. That's what we did. We right after we graduated, we got engaged at the Copper Beech Ball. There used to be 2 big Copper Beech trees out in front of PMC's old main, and they had a ball named after it, and it was at the Benjamin Franklin Hotel, and that was where we got engaged. A friend of mine was hiding a ring and holding it for me, and at a certain announcement from the band leader, we found a ring with the initials inside it, and they happened to be my wife's. She didn't realize what it was, and we got engaged at the Copper Beech Benjamin Franklin Hotel Ball, and then the band leader played "What Kind of Fool Am I" right after that. So that was the top hit at the time in 1963. We served together in 7th Corps headquarters in Germany under Lieutenant General Truman, who was a nephew of Harry, and it was quite an interesting 2 years experience. And we came back, my wife taught, I went to law school, I became the longest serving special hearing master in the state of Pennsylvania for abused children. In Media Courthouse is where I sit, and I'm still active today in doing that. And I thank PMC for all the background and training I got that let me continue to do it. Thank you.
My name's Jeff Meelan, Cadet 434. The first question here, it says, I'm of course class of 63.
Hold on to the question. Just tell us a little bit about yourself, your background.
Okay, my background was, I was born in Hackensack, New Jersey in 1941. And my family, my dad was, worked for National Cash Register Company at the time. My mom was a housewife. I had a sister 11 years older than I. And Hackensack is a suburban town outside of New York City in northern New Jersey. And then I went on to PMC for college. I think that's a little bit interesting because my sister and her husband had both been going to VPI in Virginia, and we went down to visit them, and I saw these guys with these neat uniforms marching around on the field, and they had a cadet corps at VPI, and I thought that was the neatest thing in the world. So when I got to high school and wanted to apply to college, I applied and was accepted at VPI. So in March of 1959, which was my high school graduation year, I got a letter from VPI telling me they were sorry they would not be able to accept my application and admittance because the state of Virginia had desegregated all the public schools. And many of the white families had taken their kids out of school and put them in unaccredited schools that they put together at the last minute. And all of these kids graduated from unaccredited high schools. And they couldn't go to the colleges in other states where they had planned to go. So the colleges in Virginia decided to accept all of these kids and not accept any out-of-staters. So that left me out in the cold. And so one of the people at my high school did a little research, and they said, well, there's a school in Chester, Pennsylvania, which is just outside of Philadelphia, that has a cadet corps and all of that. So we came down, looked around, and bingo, I applied, and it was kind of a last-minute acceptance. And
Is it free?
here I am today.
I thought you said it was free.
I think that's the,
Yeah,
that's it.
we're good.
Okay.
The thing I remember, Jeff, about the cadets from VPI is their uniforms. They wore capes. You guys remember that?
Yeah, oh, yeah. that's
yeah.
very
Very cool.
I thought, wow, that must be a real pain in the neck. We'll wear those things. You know? So I guess you were saved.
Yeah.
Well, let's jump to the class of '68. A couple of my buds here, and we'll start with Steve Ridzon.
Okay. Thanks, Tom. Yeah, so as Tom said, I graduated from the college, Pennsylvania Military College, and 1968, my cadet number is 475. I'll always remember that number. Very simply, I was going through high school, and I took on a very strong interest in the service academies, in particular West Point. So once I made my mind up, I said, well, I'm going to apply. How do I do that? So I contacted a congressional representative in the district as well as a senator, and very quickly got on their proposed nomination list. So I came close, but I wasn't a principal nominee. So fast forward here a little bit. Each of them had, I said, well, now what do I do? And each of them had said, well, you could either go to a prep school and then reapply next year, and, I'm sure things will be, turn out differently. And so the other alternative is that there are some fine military colleges that have four-year programs that you can get a degree in. I said, well, here's, I think that sounds better to me. I can at least invest a year and get some return out of it and try this thing one more time. So that brought me to Pennsylvania Military College. The other college, by the way, was VMI, Virginia Military Institute. So I applied to PMC at the time and was very fortunate to be accepted. And I got down there and, everybody embraced us until Mom and Dad had to go away. But I was kind of prepared for that a little bit. But right from then there, my classmates, and some of which are here, I think our reaction was that we got really scared, and but we're going to show that we're not scared. So we all huddled in a corner and hugged each other. And from there on in, I said, this is not a bad place. I don't know if I really want to go through this whole process of getting a congressional senator nomination again. So I said, I think I'm going to stay. And fast forward, we had 4 great years. I got started my MBA program there at PMC, and that's a neat story I'd like to share with you all, but I'll hold off and pass this over to Bear here. But I'm glad I'm here. I know my wife-to-be, and my wife of 54 years is glad that I stuck it out too, and it's brought us more great memories, and hopefully we'll carry on for another few years.
Well, Byron, before you start, I'll just come back to Steve's comments a minute. Yeah, I had aspirations for West Point as well, but I didn't even make the nomination list. They threw my name out long before that. So, and just a reminder to the audience, Steve mentioned VMI and we mentioned VPI. Remember that at the time, PMC was one of 7 senior military colleges in the country that offered a 4-year cadet program, private colleges, not the U.S. Military Academy. And so those 7, and then you can 6 of the 7 are still alive today. And PMC is alive in the blue blood of Widener University. And so that's why we're having this forum here this morning. So Byron.
Tom, if you don't mind, and the audience doesn't mind, there is a PS to this with the nominations, senator and congressional.
Yeah.
That year, the Air Force Academy in Colorado was under construction.
Yep.
And so each of them said, well, if you're interested in going to the Air Force Academy, I've got an opening here for you. And I was so hell-bent to go to West Point, I said, no, I don't want to have to deal with the Air Force. So
Yeah.
it went open, it went vacant.
The road not taken. The road not taken. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Byron, Colorado, man.
I'm Byron Wood Daniels, class of 68, cadet number 97. Also known as Bear, that started out as a derogatory term from my future roommate and now turned into a friendly appellation. And I only hear that now when I turn up at places like this. Thanks, Steve. Tom so intimidated me in the instructions to the panel that I wrote my notes down last night, so bear with me. I'll be concise and to the point. I was raised in rural Kansas, so how did I get to PMC? My parents' goal for me was to be the first college-educated kid among their siblings and to serve my country's a 2-year military obligation required for males. But I had to be an officer. That was from my enlisted father's World War II experience. I was headed to University of Kansas and Naval ROTC to be an ensign on a cruiser. Then Dad's career took him to Washington, D.C., and we moved to Northern Virginia during my senior year in high school. There went in-state tuition anywhere. Mom was hoping I would walk down the street from our Northern Virginia apartment then to attend what was then George Mason Community College. I knew that because of my extremely sheltered upbringing, I needed to develop some socialization skills in a structured environment. An admiral later told me that that was called a wire scrubbing. I got it. I also knew my parents would never purchase either a college-level wardrobe for me or an automobile. PMC, with its no civilian clothes allowed for at least the first 2 years and no automobiles, allowed me to compete on an equal basis during my beginning years, which I felt I strongly needed. I found that I have been a well-educated, critical thinker, thanks to PMC, for whatever life threw at me. 10 years later, I went to the University of Maryland and became educated in a trade, and there I actually did get a 3.0 in my major as opposed to a 1.73, which I took to graduate from this place. I retired as a full colonel after 38 years of service, active and reserve, and from the IRS after 37 years of civil service. And then for some excitement in life, besides when I had a price on my head, 4 different assignments in the Army, I worked as a hurricane evacuation specialist until I got too old. Can you imagine that? Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on to Jim Hewlett, also known as Bowser.
Thanks, Tom. Hi, my name is Jim Hewlett, AKA Bowser, class of 73, cadet number 132. So how did the name Bowser come about? Came about here at PMC. I used to be able, and I still can, fold my legs in the yoga position, and I was told to walk like a dog as a rook, and cadre, including Mr. Trumbo out there, would throw food at me, and I had to catch it in my mouth, and if I missed, I had to drop and give him 20 push-ups. So the name stuck. Why did I come to PMC? I was one of those kids where the local cops knew my first name, and I knew that I needed, if I was going to survive in this world, I needed discipline. So I came to PMC, and discipline is what I got. Do I regret coming here? Only one time did I regret it, is when they decided to kill the Corps. Those were tough days for us guys in the class of 73. I actually considered dropping out and going somewhere else. And then something really interesting happened. I won the lottery. Not Powerball, the draft lottery. 28. Went to the local draft board and they went, well, you're 1D now. You can't go from a 1D to a 2S. You can only go from a 1D to a 1A. Where do I sign? So I came back to school, signed my papers that I wanted to stay, and I was going to go in. I'm going to go in as an officer. And I never regretted it. My military career was spent as a reservist. My whole time was in the Transportation Corps. We were known as mother truckers. And had a unit trucking company in Edgemont, Pennsylvania. And one of our missions that I always signed up for was to come back and support Widener. We would take the Widener cadets up to Indiantown Gap or wherever they wanted to go. And I was glad I could give back to the school that taught me to grow up. I really appreciated it.
Okay, Dave Niemeyer, also known as Hobbit.
Yep. It's Dave Niemeyer, and just like Jim, I collected the nickname Hobbit while I was here at PMC, to the point that by the time I graduated, I think more people recognized me as Hobbit or Sergeant Hobbit than by Dave Niemeyer. If you went to some of the graduates and said, "You remember Niemeyer?" No. How about Hobbit? Oh yeah, Hobbit. Yeah, he was in the Ranger platoon. He was the brigadier. You know. My cadet number was 201. I grew up in Allentown, about an hour north of here, and PMC fit the bill. I wanted a military career, and so the PMC fit the bill. As you can tell from my shirt, I did not go into the Army. I went into the Navy, was commissioned as an ensign, retired 21 years later as a lieutenant commander. Today is the Navy birthday, but in interest of time, we will not sing happy birthday to the Navy and the Marine Corps. And that's my summary of after my career in the Navy, I also earned a master's degree in education, and I've taught college English classes for about 25 years. I'm still listed as adjunct faculty for several colleges, but have not been required to teach a class now for a year or two. So, thank you.
Okay, guys, thank you for those introductions. We're going to move to a little different kind of program here now in the form of some questions that we have composed specifically for the oral history program. And so I'm going to pose this question to you, and you are going to be free then to respond at your choosing as we move along. So, first question. How well did the military program here at PMC prepare you to be a leader? What leadership lessons did you learn here? Who wants to go first?
Oh, what the hell?
You go ahead, give it a shot. Meanwhile, you others keep thinking.
Okay, how did PMC prepare me? I wrote notes. Prepare me to be a leader. Well, one thing, I think from the first day that we were here, we learned that before you can give orders, you need to learn to take orders. And the Rook program, we certainly learned how to take orders. We learned the interesting orders like, take your mattress outside because we want to count them, make sure everybody has one. So yeah, we learned to take stupid orders, but because of that, we learned how to give them. But one thing that being a cadet here did not train me for is when I went on active duty. My first day on active duty when I had a platoon was my platoon sergeant came up to me and said, sir, what do you want us to do now? And here I am, a 21-year-old snot. And here's this guy, 15 years my senior, calling me sir. At PMC, or as the X as we called it, people who called us sir were younger than us. So here I'm looking at a guy like Brian and saying, sir? So that was my biggest shock. But one thing that they did teach me was, like I said, to take orders, missions come first. When you're told to do something in civilian life by your boss, it might sound stupid, but he might have a better idea on why you're doing it. So I guess the best thing was you learn to take orders and to follow them. The mission comes first.
Steve?
Yeah, all right. Well, I think like a lot of us, when we got out of high school and running all kinds of different directions, the first and foremost thing that I remember when I got into PMC was to think more structurally. So as opposed to being just responsive to some situation, just to think it through first, and then when you're able to conclude that there was some rationale to what you were doing or were going to do, based on that thinking, then there was a way to go about it, and there was a process there that I thought I benefited a lot from, and it helped me think through a lot of things, and then I kind of felt more committed to what I was doing. So at that point in time in my life, that was, I think that was very impressive to me that geez, I could actually go about doing something the right way. Now, having said that, I mentioned before that after graduating, I started my MBA program at PMC. And at that point in time, I'd just gotten back from Vietnam and started my first job at Philadelphia Airport. And I got twilight shift that I was working, which was 4 to midnight. But at any rate, so I got promoted from there to go to Boston from Philadelphia, and that's after I started my MBA program. And so I got like half of the first semester in, and I said, well, how are we going to do this? So I think I'm going to do. I'm going to start commuting for the night program. Where are we going to do that? From Boston. How are you going to do that? Well, I'll leave my car here at Philadelphia Airport, get my job, my work done up in Boston at twilight time, leave the flight, come down in time, land in Philadelphia, take my car to PMC, take the class, take the car back to Philadelphia, and catch the last Allegheny flight scheduled out of Philly to Boston. And I did that for about, no, not quite 2 months, just to finish off the semester. So it's just it's in a way, it's a funny thing, but it allowed me to really understand logistics, structure, commitment, everything else, scheduling. It just started to work. So I said, I could probably do this and do some other things as well. So I'll hopefully be able to share some other stories with you either today or later on. And I'll take no more time here at the dais.
Jeff?
I'm a person who is probably the last one to decide just how well I'm perceived by others or what's good about me or bad about me. But I think that, however, what I learned in life, not necessarily all at PMC, was to treat others as I would like to be treated myself. And I think that goes up and down. And as a result, I think it was good that when I went over to France from AG school in Indianapolis, I was assigned as the AG S1 of a airborne quartermaster outfit in what they called the communication zone. We had a lot of guys that jumped out of perfectly good airplanes like you, sir. And we fixed parachutes and rigging equipment and all that for most of Europe and NATO forces, and it was a really neat operation. After about 18 months, I was tapped to go to the COMSI headquarters to be on the staff of the commanding general there, and I think that was some recognition of that I was doing a good job. And from there, I went to Fort Benning and was cadre and helped put the 199th Infantry Brigade together, which I went to Vietnam with. So that basically is my military background and where I think whatever leadership capabilities I have were used and appreciated. In civilian life, I've been the president of my flying club, the commodore of my sailing club, and those are other kinds of activities, of course. But again, it's all the same stuff that makes it work. So that's my story.
How about it on the end, guys? Anything to contribute? Again, for the audience, sometimes we go on and we forget what the question was. And so how well did the military program at PMC prepare you to be a leader?
I'll throw out
That's
something.
what these guys are talking about. Yeah.
To some extent, respect the chain of command, be prepared to take charge, plan but be flexible. But there's a lot of practical application, especially like with me when I went to Naval Officer Candidate School up in Newport, Rhode Island after graduation. It was a piece of cake after spending 4 years at PMC. In one particular instance, they would issue us M1 rifles for drill, things like that. I looked at the rifle and it was absolutely filthy. So I field stripped it, I have it on my desk, I'm cleaning it. One of the upperclassmen goes by, looks in my room and goes, "Oh my God, what did you do to your rifle?" And we're like, "I'm field stripping it." He says, "Do you know how to put it back together?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, do it. I went and left. So a lot of good practical applications from the stuff we learned at PMC.
Bowser, anything?
You already went?
I already talked.
Oh, you already did. Who hasn't gone?
I haven't.
I lost track. I'm sorry. Byron.
Unless you want to hear it again.
I know. We'll replay the tape. That's fine.
So I'll go, Byron here. Although more than once after commissioning and commencement, I thought, why didn't they teach me how to handle this situation or this person? Eventually, I came to realize, in retrospect, that immersion as a cadet in that military environment, 24/7, being wire scrubbed, prepared me to be a leader very well. At one reunion, I think it was our 35th, I haven't been to many since I live in Colorado, Mrs. Mall, who's the wife of our president while we were there, told me that in today's terms that their goal for us wasn't to really prepare us for what our academic field of study was, but it was to educate us to be critical thinkers, which is very useful when you become a leader. PMC also, in this wire scrubbing environment, taught me such personal traits as I later had to memorize for some military intelligence test, was humility. We all learned humility, right, guys? Also perseverance, loyalty, integrity, discretion. Every woman's a lady, every man's a gentleman, morals and character. I never sought leadership roles. Probably that's why I first went into counterintelligence. But living by those PMC bestowed values, somehow leadership got forced onto me, whether it's in the Middle East where the guy got taken away by armed forces and everyone wanted me to be the leader, a retired colonel, or as things just come up in the neighborhood, oh, he'll do that. So that's how PMC prepared me for leadership. Thank you very much.
Just wanted to mention that while we were here, how did the school prepare us? One of the ways is by seeing examples being set. There's a manual in the Army for everything, FM 22-5 for drilling. There's a manual for leadership, but leadership wasn't found in the manual. It was found in the examples set. For instance, we had a Sergeant Cloud. Sergeant Cloud had a battlefield commission in World War II, and during a reduction in force, a RIF, he was set back to be a sergeant. And he was a sergeant here, but everybody knew he was an officer in combat, in battle, and here he is training young, somebody said snot-nosed cadets, to be second lieutenants, and at graduation, he would salute us, which taught us a lot of humility. We had Colonel O'Hara, a Korean War veteran. We had General Biddle, who, of all people, had an expert in, not rifle, in saber. He had an expert in saber on his chest, showing how far back the fellowship or the brotherhood went of people in the service of the country. They taught us that we're 1%ers, and that's what we say to the young cadets today here when we're commissioning them. They're part of the 1%. And at that time, that's what PMC was. They were training the 1%ers, set by examples, not by manuals. When wealth is lost, something is lost. When health is lost, no, when wealth is lost, nothing is lost. When health is lost, something is lost. When character is lost, all is lost. We had to memorize that to leave campus on a Saturday. And that stuck with us, and most of us still remember it, although my Prevagen hasn't kicked in. I'm trying to.
Well, thanks, Dave, for that. Those reminders of our seniors who taught us well here at PMC in our time. Eugene Cloud, yes, I mean there was a fixture, and taught us to be lieutenants, and that's the way I look at it. So I've got a short answer to the same question before we move on, and that is, again, how well did the military program prepare us for leadership? I'm sure a lot of us had the same experiences I'm going to relate here. Let's go to summer camp at Indiantown Gap. And we're broken down into cadet platoons. And the other members of the platoon, there are from all different ROTC programs. So we're lumped together as 40 people platoons, and we're under the supervision 24 hours a day of a commissioned officer and a non-commissioned officer who will rate us day by day as we're rotated through different leadership positions day by day. And I remember his name. I'll just say Major L. If you remember the World War II barracks, as you enter the barracks from the end, there's a room that we would go into for end-of-day counseling. This is how, cadet, you performed in your leadership position today. So Major L calls me into the room, and I'm standing at parade rest. He's sitting behind the desk, and he informs me that that I was too bossy as a leader. That not all the cadets in the platoon had the same background as I did from the Pennsylvania Military College, and so I should show perhaps a little more empathy when trying to form them into a platoon. And yes, I could sing Jody cadence, I could lead them, but we must remember that others come from different backgrounds. And I'm thinking, this guy's a major? Really? And so that was a negative example that obviously I remember to this day. All right, we're going to move on, fellas. We got about 15 minutes, I think, Jessica. Is that about right? So I'm going to give 2 questions. You can pick one, whichever one you want to speak to. Question 1, how well did, oh no, we did that. Was there a defining moment in your PMC life? Or, what is your favorite memory of your PMC life? Who wants to go first?
I'll go.
Go ahead, Jeff.
My favorite memory, there are several. One was the Boardwalk Bowls in Atlantic City, where we played the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy. And that was a tremendous opportunity to get out in the world and see another organization much like ours that we were competing against athletically, but the whole logistics of getting there and getting back and everything else was unique. Similarly, we went to the thing in Washington, D.C. My privilege hadn't kicked in yet either. The Cherry Blossom Parade. Every year we would go down and march in that, and we had the beautiful girls from Brigham Young right behind us every year in the parade. And Mike Harrison's parents had us out to their house in Virginia for parties and after the parade, and that was a good time. Later they went to New Orleans. That was after we were gone, but they were great times. Academically, I can't say that there's anything other than 2 professors that had a big impact on me. One was Toadvine, and the other was, can't remember his name, economics. Excuse me?
Yeah, I can't remember his name, too. I know who you're thinking of.
Zaka, yeah.
Zaka's it.
They were very helpful to me, and I think it was because of them that I got my act together after my sophomore year, when I found out that if I didn't stop eating donuts and playing pool at the frat house, and got down to work with my academics, I might not ever leave here in one piece. So anyway, those were my favorite and defining moments, if you will.
All right.
I'll go, Tom.
Okay, wait. Dave's got something here.
I can combine the 2 of them as well. A defining moment was my sophomore year. As I said, I only lived 5 miles from campus, and they had cadets and they had day students. A lot of my high school classmates were day students, and they were having so much fun on Saturday nights that I couldn't even get out of the school. So my sophomore year, feeling kind of low, I thought I wanted to quit the cadet corps and become a day student with my buddies. And Dr. Mall took me aside, took me in and counseled me. And I said, well, it's more money for a cadet, and my parents don't have that much money. So he said, tell you what, I'll give you a scholarship if you stay as a cadet. And the scholarship was to be the yearbook editor. And this is the yearbook that I edited for my scholarship. That was a defining moment that kept me in the cadet corps. The best memory of this was on Friday before we were commissioned, President Eisenhower came to campus. And I went into to General Biddle and I said it would be a shame if President Eisenhower left campus without this yearbook that I dedicated to General Biddle. I did that on purpose because he was just new that year. So I dedicated the yearbook to General Biddle, and I appealed to his ego, and I said, it just would be a shame for him to leave without seeing your yearbook. So he set me up, gave me 10 minutes in front of his house on the schedule to bring, after the review of the Corps, President Eisenhower came to the front of his house, and I stepped up and I handed him my yearbook, and I got to meet the Commander-in-Chief, five-star general, President of the United States. A nice picture that you'll see in the library that was taken. And 3 days later, I have a letter to my house from General Eisenhower, President Eisenhower, stamped with 5 stars. A franking privilege is what they got for free then. They could give 5-star stamp to Cadet McNulty. Thank you for the yearbook. So a defining moment from Dr. Maul to President Eisenhower.
Yeah, all right. Well, for 3 of my 4 years, I was a member, and a very proud one at that, with Headquarters Company, which is basically the college band, among other things. They were very talented and good musicians, and we all developed a discipline to march very cleanly, clean lines, everything, to the point there where there was a great interest by everybody to say, well, we're good enough that we could compete on a national level, which is the fact that we did. And we rolled through a number of competitions, and one that I can remember was at the World's Fair in New York and Long Island, up where Jim Love's area is. And we walked away with the first place position in the competition. The other opportunities that we had was we were able to travel to some wonderful events, national events, and I'll just quickly mention 2 of them. One was the Mardi Gras, and we were the King Rex Parade. We were the lead band in that parade. We were the first military band from the North, actually, to participate in that band. Up to then, it was VMI or VPI. And then all of a sudden, PMC shows up, and we had a wonderful reception there. We also performed for a girls' prep school. We were invited to perform, which we did. We did a little concert for them, and then after we had a mixer that we were able to participate in with them, which was that's right, which was fun. And again, fast forward here. This is setting aside the fraternity aspects of it, which was wonderful as well. But probably the best memory that I have, and continues to be the best memory, is meeting my wife. The Headquarters Company had a chance to perform at the Philadelphia Eagles game, and they played Dallas Cowboys, Philadelphia Eagles in Old Franklin Field. So being the guys that we were, we were all prepared to go down, and we could get the break, and which wasn't very much. And so we were already down that list, and we were going to take names and follow up on who we could meet. And I was very fortunate to meet my wife of 54 years there. And it's a good memory. The Eagles could have done a better job with the game, but the girls made up for it in spades. So, Lynn, I love you, and we'll continue on together.
On the other end of the spectrum of all this success, it was me. My defining moment was early in my Rook year. Many of us were called in for academic counseling by someone other than our faculty advisor. My guy looked like what I came to think of as a grad student. He had this cool beard, nice civilian clothes, and we went over how I was doing. I know this is not Widener's current policy, as evidenced by their latest publication, which they sent out. But, so I went into this kind of looking for advice on how I could find a tutor in some subjects I was having difficulty. Instead, I perceived this young bearded guy is looking at my shaved rook head in my rook uniform, and I perceived what I thought was the beginning of civilian versus military resentment. So he listened to my sorry tale, and then he suggested that I drop out of college because college was not meant for everyone. He did offer further career advice, however. He said that our society needed people to pump gasoline. Wasn't far enough thinking to say I could also charge cars. So I just looked at him, maybe squinted a little bit with one eye, and I've often wondered since these many decades later what his real intent was. Just blow through so many kids, or he was trying to instill something in me. Well, what he did was plant the seed of perseverance in me. So whenever I was told sometime in the future, like, oh, you'll never catch that train, you can't do that. It was like waving a red flag in front of a bull. So I want to thank whoever that guy was. I wish him well. And he gave me a defining moment of perseverance as a young 18-year-old boy. Thank you.
All right, Bear. Very good.
Okay, before I get into my favorite memory of PMC, some of these gentlemen brought up one of my worst memories of PMC. A lot of us guys know, I realize we're all in the band up here. We were a proud band. We did Mardi Gras, St. Patty's Day Parade, Cherry Blossom Festival. We traveled all over, playing great music, march music, John Philip Sousa music. My worst memory was the last Boardwalk Ball. We had a civilian band director, Beecher, who tried to tell us we needed to point our toes as we marched. The last Boardwalk Ball, I remember standing in the end zone, playing, not Sousa, Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head. To this day, I abhor that song. But thank you for bringing back that memory.
Very good.
But my favorite memory of PMC, really easy, was the day I was commissioned. I never felt so proud to be commissioned and to have my mother on one side of me and my future wife on the other side, and my dad standing there brimming as my wife and my mother pinned the gold bars on me. My proudest moment at PMC, and one of my proudest moments in my life. I really cherish that moment.
Very good.
It's probably going to sound like, yep, I'll take it over, yep. It's going to sound like an unpaid plug, but bear with me. I was an English major, and so for my senior project for graduation, I wrote a series of short stories about life in the Corps. Okay, great. Got an A on it, too. The professor said it was great, it should be published, all that kind of stuff. So over the years, I would add stories to it. My cadre sergeant my freshman year was Bill Spear. He just recently completed a book, it's called Beneath the Dome, Memories of the Corps from 54 to 73, I think. And I said, oh, well, I've got all these great stories that I wrote way back when. So I gave them all to him, and every so often, hey, here's another idea. He finally cut me off. He did it politely and said, several people have submitted so many stories that, to be fair, we're going to not accept any more from you guys and more from others. I haven't seen my copy yet, but I gather it's been mailed out to the folks that ordered it, and he said he was going to have postings around here for those that want to order it. But all of my favorite memories of the Corps and some not so favorite are in that book. And one other favorite memory that I don't think is in the book is and people have talked here about the wives and things like that. There was a young co-ed that I was very, very interested in. So I went over to her dorm, asked her out for a date, and my fondest memory is her excitement at being asked out for a date by me. And 18 months later, we were married. So,
Right.
All right, so I guess I'll finish this off with these comments. So Jim Hewlett has kind of taken my one of my favorite memories in that standing there being commissioned in May 1968 with my mother on one side and my future wife 2 weeks later will be my wife on the other side. But that's already used, so I'll use another one, and that was Junior Ring Dance, where my future wife of 55 years and I are standing in the ring, formalizing our engagement to be married. And I'm reminded of it because it's on a continual picture roll on my library desk in my study, and I see it every day. I see her every day too. And so, thank you very much for attending. For people that will look at this program from the future, yes, hopefully we have some lessons learned for you and some ideas, and we wish you good fortune. Thank you. That's all, folks.
Was it really? Yeah. Yeah, that's right. I hadn't thought about that.
Next event, lunch, cafeteria.
Point of
We
housekeeping,
can march
folks.
over now.
Yeah, you can head on over to the Pride Cafe. They're ready for you for lunch. Thanks so much for being here, and we'll see you later on this afternoon.